Welcome, Don Hancock, Director of the Nuclear Waste Safety Program at the Southwest Research and Information Center, and Mariah Gomez, Associate Professor at the University of New Mexico Honors College and author of Nuclear Nuevo Mexico, Colonialism and the Effects of the Nuclear Industrial Complex on Nuevo Mexicanos. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you, Megan.
Don, I want to start with you. Why did your organization push for this meeting that took place with federal officials?
New Mexico is very important for the nation and the Department of Energy when it comes to nuclear weapons and nuclear waste. And so they need to come, not just sit in Washington, D.C., they need to come, top officials need to come to New Mexico to listen to New Mexico concerns, answer questions that people have, because they do a rotten job normally of communicating with people. And so we've been pushing for a while, and last year in 2023 they did this kind of the first time, and they did it again this year. So we think it's something that needs to happen on a regular basis, because otherwise we know they're not going to hear people in New Mexico's concerns.
What key issues need to be addressed here?
So New Mexico is the center of nuclear weapons, going, of course, as people know, going all the way back to the Manhattan Project and Los Alamos, but we're still that way. The first site that's supposed to start building new plutonium pits, the cores of nuclear bombs, is Los Alamos here in New Mexico.
Now, they built them before, but these are a new generation.
This will be a new generation of pits for new nuclear weapons. DOE has 7 new nuclear weapons on the drawing board. But the other thing is, in addition to everything else that Mariah has talked about in her book, we're the only state in the nation with a geologic repository for nuclear waste, the Waste Isolation Pilot Plant in southeastern New Mexico. In fact, WIPP is the only operating geologic repository in the entire world. So because of the importance of new weapons, Sandia, of course, is also part of that, since they do the non-nuclear components. So we have, New Mexico is unique. It's the only state in the nation that both is producing new nuclear weapons and storing the waste. There is no other state that does that. So we are very important to them, and they need to hear from us and pay attention to us. And when they don't pay attention to us, we need our state officials, for example, to take some action so that they will have to listen to us even when they don't want to.
Mariah, you were part of there was a virtual audience on Zoom. There was an in-person audience where Don was. What were your impressions of the meeting?
You know, it was really interesting to be online for various reasons. I really expected it to be a forum style of a Zoom meeting where everybody would be watching and there would be an opportunity to submit questions, but we didn't have that at all. In fact, there was no one really moderating on the online end. To the point that when the meeting ended, it just kept filming and all of us were kind of still around, unmuting ourselves, talking to each other. It was a little strange, but it was also encouraging to see, about 130 participants online and what seemed to be over 350 participants in person.
Don, what was your impression being there in person? It was on Pojoaque Pueblo.
It was on Pojoaque Pueblo, which is something that was never recognized. There were Pueblo officials from several Pueblos that were there, and they were not recognized either until halfway through the forum. It was total disrespect for Pueblo people and Pueblo lands in the state, and that was really awful from my standpoint.
It sounds like they needed more local input on a lot of things, potentially.
Well, and they have local input. Los Alamos is here. Sandia is here. WIPP is here. They had officials in the room from Los Alamos and from Sandia and from WIPP. So they should definitely have known better.
Mariah, what would you like to have seen happen with this opportunity for people to speak directly to public officials?
Yeah, I think there was a fine opportunity here that kind of went astray, right? We saw a really different public meeting, public forum, town hall than we saw a year ago, when it was a little bit of a longer time last year. We had a local official who was actually moderating, framing questions, reframing questions, recognizing the lands that we were on, offering a blessing, you know, doing things the way we typically do things in New Mexico. What it felt like this time was like what it often feels like, which is DC comes to New Mexico and does things DC's way. And I think that in terms of public engagement and public involvement, there were ample opportunities, and there still are. We can do this again. We should do this again, in fact, to engage the true public. I think one of the things that I was actually disappointed in was that the people who were called, who were literally passed the mic, were people like Don, were people like Jay Coughlin, were people with Nuke Watch New Mexico who read a statement from the Archbishop, people who are typically in communication with these folks. These folks know where these organizations and these individuals stand, and there were very few actual public attendees who got to say their piece, and that for me was really disappointing. I really commend the folks who, when they were called on, actually handed the mic to Indigenous relatives, including online. You know, Leona Morgan was handed the mic in the online forum. So only 3 people got called on online, and I think total there were like 17 people who got to speak. But, you know, there needs to be more time allocated to the public. There needs to be a more robust way that they engage the public. I don't want to like change topics, but, you know, when we were talking on the radio last week and we were discussing the current executive order 14096, the revitalizing our nation's commitment to environmental justice, one thing that's really interesting in there is it actually calls for strategic plans from the various agencies. And we've just recently actually seen the issuance of DOE's strategic planning process. And there is a public comment period that is currently open until July 31st. And so here's a really good opportunity for the public to submit comments, and probably, and this is the concern that I have, the New Mexico public doesn't know how to do that. Most people actually don't know how, and so sometimes town halls are better because people can get up and more easily and informally say what they want to say.
Or they have low connectivity on the internet,
you know,
which is an issue here.
We know that. We know that Senator Lujan's working on that. That is a major issue, and that plays really prominently into the access that people have to these sort of public engagement opportunities.
Don, as you mentioned, LANL's now ramping up production of new plutonium pits for the next generation of weapons. What reasoning did officials give for a new generation of nuclear weapons?
Dr. Ruby, the head of National Nuclear Security Administration, the weapons part of DOE, started off her initial discussion talking about Russia and China developing new weapons, and she said we don't have to keep up with them 1-to-1, but we have to keep up with them. So she was putting it totally in the context of, you know, supposedly protecting the United States. She didn't mention that we have over 1,500 warheads now, more in reserve, way more than what anybody thinks we could actually use. I mean, even a few nuclear weapons would essentially destroy the world as we know it. So she didn't talk about that at all, but she was trying to justify what, in a lot of our views, is not justifiable.